Hey everyone, Reflected here. Today I'd like to show you a video about one of my other passions next to DCS, flying jackets. I'm a complete jacket nut and an avid collector, and I'd like to introduce to you my friends at AVI Leather from Denmark, a company that more than scratches that itch. Some of you may know that on top of DCS and building campaigns, I'm also a real-life pilot. I fly gliders and motor gliders. What you probably don't know is that I'm also a jacket fanatic, and I have a sizable collection. In my opinion, nobody looks cooler than pilots, and flying jackets are the most iconic part of that look. I mean, who wouldn't want to look like Tom Cruise in Top Gun or Steve McQueen in The Great Escape, right? These flying garments don't only look cool, but I love wearing them around the airfield and inside the cockpit for their functionality. And admittedly, I sometimes even fly DCS wearing a jacket and flying gloves. Yeah, I know. When it comes to collecting jackets, you can go two ways: originals or reproductions. Originals can be harder to come by and are more pricey, usually in not such a good shape to wear and require a bit of restoration, but they certainly have more value as collectibles. If you want a daily wearer though, a replica can be a good choice. Repros range from cheap lookalikes, or as we call them, mall jackets, only remotely resembling actual flying jackets, to high-end stitch-by-stitch repros with NOS hardware that costs nearly as much as originals. This is what I love about AVI Leather. Their jackets are made of quality materials, they were carefully copied from originals in their possession, they took them apart, measured, and recreated them, but they still sell them at a reasonable price. Let's see what they have to offer and how they connect to my campaigns. The first jacket on the menu is too vintage for any of my campaigns, the A-1. If you're into open cockpit stuff, okay, not that vintage, think more like late 20s, early 30s, like Howard Hughes. It's something that your instructor would have worn during basic training after you joined the Army Air Corps. Made of supple and soft russet capeskin, using buttons instead of a zipper, and with a large knit collar that comes in handy in the slipstream. If your favorite campaigns are Blue-Nosed Bastards of Bodney or Wolfpack, so you're more into USAAF warbirds, it's the legendary A-2 jacket that you would have been issued when joining the Army Air Corps. First issued in the early 30s, produced well into wartime years, this is the most stylish jacket ever made, in my opinion. It screams vintage, yet it goes well with modern outfits. It's both sharp and elegant, and rebellious and super cool at the same time. Look at that stylish collar and those epaulettes. A2s came in many variations, as there were lots of contractors who produced it, every one of them making their jackets just a tiny bit differently. Some were a darker seal brown, some a lighter russet. Most were made of horsehide, that's sturdy and develops an amazing patina over time. But some were made of goat skin, that is a bit more durable. Horsehide jackets generally need more time to be broken in, but once they are, they fit like a glove. Goat skin is a bit more resistant to wear. AVI reproduced two wartime contracts: Perry Sportswear from Newburgh, New York, and Bronco MFG from New York City. They look quite similar at first glance, but there are some subtle differences if you look closer. Look at the collars. The Perry has a more rounded collar, but it has a collar stand, like vintage shirts, to make it stand higher around your neck. Bronco, on the other hand, omitted the stand to make production easier, but the collar is more pointy and sharper. The Bronco has beveled pocket corners, while the Perry's pockets are rounded and it has a wider epaulette. Some A2s have a looser, more boxy fit, but Both the Bronco and the Perry are known to be more slender and athletic than others, which works better as a part of a modern outfit. A2s are meant to be a little short in the back and roomy in the torso, but that's part of the vintage look. Also, you want your A2 to have a bit of room in the armpit so that you can comfortably move your arms. They're not supposed to be slim fit. Both jackets are available in russet or seal brown, horsehide or goatskin. Both leathers should last a lifetime and will just look cooler and cooler as you wear them. If you want, you can also go ahead and customize your jacket with a patch and or a painted nose art on the back. There are several jacket artists on the internet and nothing will turn people's heads more than a cool jacket art. Hey, how about a Miller's Mayhem jacket with a black cross painted for each kill you scored during the Wolfpack campaign? Let's move on to the PTO. Magnitude is soon releasing their F4U Corsair. By the way, I've had the honor to design their training, single mission, and instant action content, and I'm definitely planning a campaign too, as soon as we have enough assets to work with. I've also heard rumors that Nick hinted that there would be a Hellcat coming. That would be a dream. And isn't VAO working on a P40? I haven't heard news about that in ages. Anyhow, if you prefer the Pacific Theater and you fancy being either a Navy or Marine pilot, or maybe fly P40s with the AVG, the Flying Tigers, then you should go for the M422a. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna get one of these. I love it. As almost all Navy leather jackets, it was made of goatskin, which is nearly indestructible. A great choice when standing on the deck of a carrier while a 30-knot wind sprays you with salt water. It looks a bit like an A2, but the pockets have buttons instead of snaps. The collar is made of mouton fur, which is what you want in strong winds. There's no epaulets, but the best part is the bi-swing back. You know how leather jackets can sometimes be restrictive when you lift your arms or reach forward? Well, you won't have that problem with a bi-swing pleated back. It's the most practical and comfortable jacket ever designed. It's such a great design that after a few minor changes, it was renamed the G-1 in 1947, and it's still issued to naval aviators today. Now let's move on to my Tomcat campaign, shall we? If you ride a speed bike and quote Top Gun lines wherever you go, or you just simply love the turkey and enjoyed flying Fear the Bones or Zone 5, then the G1 is for you. This is the jacket worn by Tom Cruise in Top Gun. G1's changed a lot over the years. Some of the more recent contracts use cowhide and have a faux fur color. But AVI decided to reproduce a contract from the early 1950s when G1s were still made of goatskin and used real mouton. It could have been worn by a Corsair pilot in the Korean War or Lieutenant Harry Brubaker from the bridges of Toko-ri. As a Tomcat pilot or Rio, you would have been unlikely to get such a beautiful older contract, but it could have been passed on to you by your father, who disappeared over Vietnam in his F4 Phantom during a classified mission, if you know what I mean. Hey, Hitler has just announced a Phantom, although not the Navy version, unfortunately. At first glance, it looks like the M422a, but there are differences. The fur collar is more narrow, and the whole fit is much more slender in the belly area, but the shoulders are wider. The collar is also a darker brown, almost black in some lights. The collar on both the M422a and the G1 is real mouton, very soft, and a beautiful dark russet brown color that will fade into honey blonde the more you expose it to sunlight and salt water. That's how people know you're not a nugget anymore, but an old hand. Oh, and of course, the Navy is much less strict about decorating jackets, so You can go wild with the patches on this one. Jolly Rogers, Black Aces, Bounty Hunters, Wolfpack, or maybe a fictional VF-28 Avengers patch to go with my Zone 5 campaign. I got one of these a few years ago and patched it with VF-84 patches and a name tag that says Commander Richard Owen. Rings a bell, anyone? Leather flying jackets have slowly been replaced by cloth ones, then nylon, then Nomax, but they also lost a bit of their charm. No piece of clothing in the world looks cooler than a leather flying jacket in my opinion. So if you're like me and you fly DCS because you're generally passionate about aviation, interested in the history of air combat, and you admire all aspects of flying, go have a look at the AVI Leather website to learn more about these legendary jackets. I'll put a link in the video description. Which model do you like best and why? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. I have some great campaign announcements coming soon. See ya!